and Xena needs to experience real love, as we all do. Wow, am I gonna have portals over here? Is there gonna be mind control over here?
Oh, sick.
Is the AI god gonna fall in love with the Earth god? Yeah, it's too many possibilities.
Oh my god. The apple just smacked me in the face. That was a surprise.
Hi friends, my name is Hannah and I am attempting to write my first ever novel. I am writing a sci-fi novel. I spent the last week trying to decide, am I going a fantasy route? Am I going more sci-fi? And yeah, I think in the last week I've felt really firmly planted that, okay, we are going in a sci-fi direction. Here's kind of like my tagline or my pitch for the novel. I am unsure how much I want to share because I feel like it's still taking shape, it's still taking form, and a lot of these details will change. And also, I just feel precious about it and am unsure about how much to share. But here's kind of a little pitch. 700 years after abandoning Earth, the elite return to reclaim it, only to find it alive, powerful, and unwilling to be ruled again. Dun dun dun. Cue very dramatic music. Yeah, that's just like a silly little pitch that I have so far. It's gonna be about two groups of people who are really fighting for their home, for what they perceive to be their home. There's a huge element of religion, there's a huge element of politics there. I'm still sorting out a lot of details, but there's definitely going to be kind of a queer love story, not full romance. I think it's going to be more of like a queer yearning, kind of a subplot that's there, a little bit of romance, but a lot of yearning. There's going to be, a lot around ancestral legacy and generational patterns. There's going to be a lot around religion and gods and yeah, morality. And there's going to be a ton around, yeah, right relationship with the earth, right relationship with the land, right relationship with each other. So those are some of the core themes of the sci-fi novel. It's a lot to chew on. It's a big task to take, but yeah, I feel really excited for this story. It's something that I cannot stop thinking about. And I think when you get that kind of obsessive nature about something, then that's really like the tug that's pulling you to keep going, and that there's really something there to, yeah, see it through. So thank you for being here. Thank you for joining. A little bit about my background and how did I arrive to this ambition of wanting to write a novel, which is still really new for me to claim. I am a full-time artist. I've been a full-time ceremonial tattoo artist for the last 5 years. And just recently, in the last 3 months, me and my husband have moved out of the city into a more rural space, into a more forested area. So that was a really big shift in the last 3 months. And since landing here, I feel like there are so many other parts of myself that have come up to the surface, and parts of myself that feel like they've been here this whole time, but maybe just needed this catalyst to appear and to feel inspired. Writing is something that I've always loved to do when I was younger as a child. I lived in the library. I feel like that was the place for immigrant parents to drop their kids off to while they had other tasks to do, or running late from work, go to the library if I wasn't able to be picked up on time. So yeah, I basically was raised by the library. And I remember writing a ton of short stories, in elementary school and even in middle school. I entered a bunch of poetry competitions and spoken word competitions, essay competitions all throughout high school. And then once college hit, I think I was like, yeah, I'm done. I think I was, yeah, just trying to find my way, 17, 18, 19 years old. You're trying to figure out who you are, what do you want to do? So yeah, that was its own whirlwind, its own chapter. And I haven't really written since then. In the meantime, like I said, for the last 5 years, I've been a really active 2D visual artist. So a lot of drawing, a lot of painting, tattooing. That's what I do full time, which I have such a big blessing of that. This writing is really taking me by surprise. surprise, this return of the writing bug or this writing itch that's coming back, and it feels really, really good to have this part of myself come back. I'm really someone who has no problem starting a project, but has many problems with finishing a project. I am attempting to write my first draft of this novel. I'm aiming for anywhere between like 80 to 90,000 words. That's that sounds like a lot for me who doesn't have an established writing practice yet. This basically by the end of winter, I would like to finish the first draft of this novel. And as we go into spring, I'd really like to start the revisions and the edits and do that entire process. Thank you all for being here. I'm so grateful, and yeah, excited for this journey. All right, hello. So here is my final vision board for Project ROOTSONG. Let me just kind of zoom out so you all can get a sense of what it looks like. So this is my vision board in Sublime. As you can see, I'm using this kind of web formation to see how ideas and concepts are related to each other, rather than just putting all of my pins in one place on Pinterest and it kind of floating. I love having it organized and categorized here. So here is a little bit about my vision board. I basically focused the vision board on the two main groups of people in my story. I have redacted their names. So it is Group R and Group C. So let's focus on Group R. So for Group R, here are kind of the main words that I had when I was thinking of them, and here are some images that really inspired me. So I have here Solarpunk, indigenous futurism. So they are essentially the survivors of Earth. They have a really close relationship to the land and a really special relationship to the animals and plants, the evolved ecology. Also, there is like this sun ray that is glowing upon me. So if the lighting changes throughout this video, that is why. But here are some images that really inspired me. I really love seeing these visuals of them interacting with plants or with nature. I really love this image of like traditional ceremonial wear, especially this mask here, this anthropomorphic mask. Feels really magical and probably something that I will include into the final story. And yeah, here are some more images of them interacting with beasts, interacting with nature. Yeah, I love all of these images. And then another branch that I have going off of it is their architecture. So here is kind of what I was imagining their architecture to look like. As you can see, their technology has advanced in the last 1,000 years on Earth, but now they are more in harmony and have more of a symbiotic relationship with nature. So I love this imagery of the vines and the roots growing over the buildings. Also these little mushrooms that are over here. And I also really love this image of kind of these natural rock formations that are kind of creating a portal within each other. And then beyond the architecture, we also have the religion. So here is another branch going off of Group R, and here is what I am envisioning their religion to be like. So you can see here, so you can kind of see this generational image of a grandmother, a mother, and a child. I'm really wanting there to be an intergenerational dynamic in the story. Again, it's focused on ancestral legacy and generational memory. So I love this image of the 3 generations of them praying and kind of the spirit essence floating out around them. And then, of course, Group R is really deeply tied to the earth. So they worship a lot of the earth spirits, the essence of the earth, the animals and the plants. So a lot of imagery of them praying with the trees and being in relationship with them. And then beyond that, another main group that I have here is environment and land. So the earth has evolved and changed for the last 1,000 years. So this is what I am imagining the land to look like. So super vibrant. It's starting to regenerate itself. I love these images of like the waterfall, so dramatic, cascading across. And yeah, just beautiful imagery of what I am envisioning Group R's landscape to look like. And then related to that, we also have the evolved ecology of Earth, so the animals and plants and how have they changed in the last 1,000 years. And I really love this kind of alien looking image of this lily pad, very modified and mutated. That feels like a really beautiful evolution perhaps. And also this mushroom imagery here. And also I was really drawn to all these images of really large animals. I think because I read this research paper that was hypothesizing that insects back in prehistoric times were much larger than they are now, and they attributed that to the higher levels of oxygen that were in the air. And since insects feed through their exoskeleton, because there was a higher amount of nutrients and oxygen in the air, they just ended up being much, much bigger than they are today. So this is kind of an example of how reality can kind of inspire fiction. So I have a lot of beasts that are much larger than what we know them to be in our time. I don't know for sure if that's going to carry on in my actual story, plot and writing, but I just really enjoyed these images. And of course, here they are, the Group R in harmony with their animal kin and animal relatives. And then if we go over to Group C, which is very dramatically different than Group R, we have here some keywords: cyborg, techno elite. Their whole society and whole culture really centers on technology. They really promote cyborg and mecha augmentation. So here's kind of what I was imagining that they would look like for Group C. So you can kind of see here some images that I have saved and brought on as cards here in Sublime that have notes written on it. Their society and their people are really focused on code, on programming. They're really focused on being in relationship with machine instead of nature. So I really love this imagery, especially of the vines kind of growing over the cyborg and kind of melding together. I feel like that can inspire a lot of interesting scenes or plot points. And then here are some more imagery of their potential technology, their generation ships, just a very dramatically different world than Group R. And here's also potentially the spacecrafts that they were orbiting Earth with for the last 1,000 years. And then in terms of Group C, we also have their society and culture. So it was really fun to think about how these two different groups might have changed and evolved over the last 1,000 years, and how their society and culture might have changed in very different ways. So for Group C, I really have them hierarchical. They're really focused on organization, on control. They really want order instead of chaos. So I love this image here of all of the robots kind of standing in a line. I'm also kind of imagining that since many of them haven't been on land in hundreds of years, that maybe some of them are even missing animals or what they've heard of to be animals, and maybe they create these kind of cyborg mecha animals. So I really enjoyed seeing these images as some inspiration. And then, of course, the cyborg kind of augmentations and really questioning what is humanity and how much of our flesh and spirit can we sacrifice as we mold together with machines. So I really love this image here. And then, of course, they also have their own religion. Even though they are heavily focused on computers and technology, they still have a religion. They still have a framework for how they move through life, what they think the origin of life is, and it is very different from Group R. So you can see here for religion, there's kind of this like all-knowing being, but instead of it coming from the earth, it's coming from wires and technology and motherboards and yeah, this fusion again of human and machine here. So yeah, this is really fun to make. Just I like keeping it really condensed as well. So for each branch or theme, I really only put about like 4 to 6 images for each theme, because again, if I put too many, then it's just turning into another Pinterest board. And I think by setting a limit, I have to be more thoughtful and more intentional about what images am I including here and what's going to guide my writing process. So for each branch, I have 4 to 6 images that I have meticulously and thoughtfully chosen. And then you can kind of see here that Group C's branches are a little bit less developed than Group R. And that's because most of the story will be happening on Earth where Group R resides. So I kind of fleshed out their world a little bit more. But I'm sure that this vision board will shift and change, as I get into the writing process. I'm sure more details will emerge, but it feels really, really good to have this vision board to refer to. Hi friends, it's coming into evening time, so I know it's a little bit dimmer. The sun is starting to set behind the trees, and because we're deeper in the forest, we get less sunlight because of that too. So yeah, sorry for the lighting, that's a little bit more dim. But yeah, I just prepped for my sweet client who is arriving tonight and camping on the land. So now I'm just going to do a little bit more world building before they come. I'm really hoping to complete the world building this week. I'm getting in a really good place with the history. I'm realizing the need to create more factions, different groups of people, rather than just the 2 main groups that I've been focusing on. They won't be like the center of the story, but I think to give the world more depth, there needs to be other groups of people, other humans who have survived in very different ways. So yeah, I'm kind of fleshing out more of those factions now, and I'm going to get started on the character profiles as well. So yeah, we're doing great. I'm feeling really good with the history and the world building, and yeah, it's making me really, really excited to start writing when the time comes. Testing, testing, testing. Hello, hello. I had a really full day today hosting my siblings. They came over. They slept last night over, and then we hung out today. My younger brother led us through a printmaking workshop. So this is like a linocut. I think that's what it's called, linocut print. This is my first one ever that I made today with my brother's instructions. It was super fun hanging out with them and making art. so gorgeous out here on the deck and really sunny, so it was really sweet. I have just been working on my world building. I think that my focus right now is the rules and limitations of the world that I'm creating. I don't feel like I need to figure out every single detail, but I think having these boundaries and these guidelines will really allow the story to flourish, become more alive. I'll have more direction with where the story wants to go, because right now I love the world I've created. I love the people, I love the history and the background, but I'm feeling like the technology and the magic systems are needing a little bit more grounding. I feel like that's not possible when, we don't know what is the limitations of this technology, what is the limitations of this magic. So that's kind of what I'm in the process of figuring out right now. Hopefully we can start outlining next week in time for Novel November. All right, hello. So here is my character profiles for Project ROOTSONG. So in the last week, I decided that I was actually going to structure my story as a dual POV. Very challenging as a newbie writer, but it just feels right for the story. If I feel like I need to change that later, then I will. But for now, I'll introduce the two main characters that the POVs will be focusing on, and then I'll introduce some secondary characters as well. So here's the first main character. Her name is Rui, and I love this image, with the tattoos and with the geometric fractals behind, and also these feathers and the ceremonial wear. It's, super gorgeous. So this is Rui. And then basically for all of the characters, I wrote out their want, their need, how are these two things different, and what is their fear. I feel like that's what makes a story compelling. That's why we read along and we follow someone's journey. We see how their wants and needs are challenging each other, maybe not even on the same page, and we really root for them to achieve both of those things. So here's Rui's wants. Her want is that she wants to take revenge for Blank's death. I redacted that. And then Rui wants to destroy the divine nexus. And then her need is that Rui needs to forgive others, including herself. She needs to honor her own humanity and not lose herself. So this was really inspired by the Save the Cat Writes a Novel, this book here, which I will go over more into the outlining video that I'll make. We want there to be an A story, so an external want, but underneath the surface there is a B story going on, or an internal need. And usually those wants and needs are opposite of each other. So my next question, how are these two things different? Rui's bloodlust and rage is fueling her vengeful action, but this violence also prevents her from forgiving her enemies or herself. These two things are opposite of each other. And what is her fear? She fears that the sacrifices others have made for her are worthless. She fears that she is unworthy of the love others give her. So that is Rui. I'm really excited to get more into her psyche and just into her motivations, and making this character sheet was a really great way to start that process. Let me see if I can close this out. Okay, perfect. And then for the second person that we'll be focusing on for this dual POV, we have Xena. So I love this image here of like this cyborg mecha automation. And Xena's want is that she wants to gain approval from the divine nexus and her father. She wants to fulfill C's mission in taking over Earth. What she actually needs is someone to emotionally connect with her and accepts and understands her. And Xena needs to experience real love, as we all do. And then how are these two things different? Xena's need for emotional connection is in direct opposition to working for the divine nexus, as the divine nexus believe that emotions are faulty and something to be debugged. Hopefully that's not giving away too much of the story, but that's a really core thing that's driving Xena and her inner turmoil. And then her fear is that she fears that she will always feel out of place, that she will never be accepted or belong anywhere. So here we have Xena, and along with Xena we have her father. So here is her father, Anox. And Enox wants to fulfill the mission of the divine nexus. He wants to eradicate the R as they are an abomination of humanity. Enox needs to take responsibility for his own destiny separate from the agenda of divine nexus. He needs to claim his own wants. And then how are these two things different? For Enox to meet his need, it would require him to betray divine nexus. The mission requires total assimilation, which would not be possible if Enox claims his own destiny. What is his fear? Enox fears that the R are right. He fears that he yearns for his humanity and his emotions, especially because these are new and unknown feelings for him. So yeah, a lot around emotions, a lot around feelings. And then here we have connected to Rui, we have her mentor, Fayani, and what she wants is to protect her community, to be a good mentor, and to teach others to fight. Fayani needs to grieve the loss of her daughter and forgive herself. Fayani also needs to not blame herself when others die. How are these two things different? So Fayani wants to teach people how to use their abilities, but her internalized shame and blame actually affects her ability to wield her powers. And then what is her fear? Fayani fears that her weakness has caused others to die. She fears that she will always blame herself. So yeah, here is kind of my character sheet. There's going to be a lot more characters than just this, but I feel like making this little beat sheet was a great way to begin that process of characterization and yeah, just getting more into the minds of the characters. I'm sure that there will be a lot more secondary characters, but it felt really good just to get started with these, and I'm super excited for Rui and for Xena. I absolutely adore them. I think the challenge will be in writing completely separate voices for each of them, since I am attempting to do a dual POV. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. All right, hello. So I am complete with my world building. That was a really great exercise just to flesh out the world more. I know some folks are just straight pantsers and they just go into the writing right away. I don't feel like I can do that with how complex of a story this is, especially when you're dealing with multiple groups of people, with new extraordinary worlds. I think especially in sci-fi and in fantasy, you really have to create the boundaries and the rules first before you can play within them. So I'm glad that I took the time to flesh out the world. I feel really happy with where it's at. I feel like I could go on and world build for ages and ages, figuring out the nitty-gritties, what are they eating, what dance rituals do they have, where are they going seasonally, how is the land changing. But I don't feel like I need to do that before I get into the writing. I think that world building can kind of teeter on the edge of procrastination. So yeah, I'm going to stop world building now that I have most of the main foundation, and I'm going to dive into the outlining next. So yeah, thank you all for being here. Thank you for joining. So excited for Project ROOTSONG. It continues to demand all of my attention, and I'm really excited just to see where this project goes. So thank you for being here along with the journey, and see you next time.